Imagine this. You're walking near a quiet spring, thousands of years ago. Water bubbling up from the ground, same as 100 other springs you've seen in your life. Except this one is different. This one catches fire. Not the water itself, something rising off the surface of it, something invisible, something you can't see until a spark touches it, and suddenly the ground itself seems to be burning. A flame with no wood, no fuel you can point to, just fire, coming straight out of the earth and refusing to go out. To someone with no concept of underground gas, no idea that ancient organic matter could be seeping up through rock, this wasn't a mystery to solve, it was a sign. Cultures across the ancient world treated these burning springs as sacred. Some even built temples around them, convinced they were standing at the mouth of something divine, or something dangerous, or both. Here's the thing about petroleum. Unlike metal, which mostly stayed hidden until someone threw the right rock in a fire, petroleum announced itself constantly, all over the world for thousands of years, in the strangest possible way. Thick black tar oozing up through cracks in the ground, sticky pools that trapped animals, and yes, these burning springs flickering with a flame nobody could explain. The ancient Mesopotamians didn't wait around wondering what the sticky black substance was for, they just started using it. That thick tar, called bitumen, got mixed into mortar to waterproof buildings. It sealed the hulls of boats, keeping river water out for months at a time. It was even used thousands of years before anyone understood chemistry as a kind of ancient adhesive and sealant, holding tools and structures together. The ancient Egyptians took it even further. They used bitumen in the mummification process itself, packing it into bodies as part of the preservation ritual. In fact, some historians believe the very word mummy traces back to an old word for bitumen, which means one of history's most famous ancient rituals is, in a very literal sense, connected to crude oil. But here's what none of these civilizations understood. They were interacting with petroleum constantly, using it, building with it, even burying their dead with it, and they had absolutely no idea what it actually was, where it came from, or that beneath their feet, entire oceans of it were sitting in wait. For most of human history, people used the oil that came to them, seeps, tar pits, burning springs. Whatever surfaced naturally they collected. Nobody was digging for it on purpose. Why would you dig for something you didn't understand when it kept bubbling up for free? That changed, slowly, and then very suddenly, once people started needing light. For centuries, lighting your home after dark meant candles or whale oil burned in lamps. Whale oil worked, but it was expensive, and by the 1800s, decades of whaling had pushed whale populations toward collapse, driving prices even higher. The world needed a cheaper way to light a room after sunset, and that need is what turned petroleum from a curiosity into something worth chasing. Around this time, a substance called rock oil started showing up in a strange place. Traveling salesmen were bottling it and selling it as medicine. A miracle cure for nearly anything, rubbed on skin or swallowed straight from the bottle. Most of it did nothing at all, and this is genuinely where the phrase snake oil salesman comes from. But buried inside that traveling medicine show nonsense was a real discovery nobody had acted on yet. This rock oil, when refined properly, burned longer, brighter, and cleaner than whale oil ever could. A businessman named George Bissell saw the opportunity buried inside the snake oil claims. He hired a man named Edwin Drake to figure out how to get petroleum out of the ground reliably, not just from lucky surface seeps, but on purpose in large quantities. Drake's big idea wasn't really new science. It was borrowed. Salt well drillers had been drilling deep into the earth for decades to reach underground brine deposits. Drake simply applied that same drilling technique to hunt for oil instead of salt. In 1859, near Titusville, Pennsylvania, Drake's well struck oil at just under 70 feet deep. It wasn't a massive gusher, it was a slow, steady flow, but it was proof. Petroleum wasn't just something you happened to find, it was something you could deliberately go looking for and reliably find again. That one modest well in Pennsylvania set off what became known as the oil rush. Within years, wooden derricks were popping up across the countryside. Fortunes were being made and lost overnight, and an entire industry was born out of a substance ancient civilizations had been stepping over for thousands of years without ever asking what it truly was. Here's a fact that sounds made up, but isn't. Every drop of petroleum ever pumped out of the ground used to be alive. Not dinosaurs, despite what the popular myth says. Mostly tiny marine organisms, plankton and algae drifting in ancient oceans hundreds of millions of years ago. When they died, their remains sank to the seafloor and got buried under layer after layer of sediment faster than they could fully decompose. Over unimaginable stretches of time, buried deeper and deeper, that organic material got cooked. Not by fire, but by heat and pressure building up from the earth itself, slowly transforming those ancient remains into the thick, energy-dense liquid we now call crude oil. There's a term geologists actually use for this process, and it's almost poetic. They call it the oil window, a very specific range of temperature and depth underground where conditions are just right for organic matter to convert into oil instead of staying as unprocessed sediment or overcooking into natural gas or getting too hot and burning away entirely. Miss that window and you don't get oil at all. Now here's the part that should genuinely stop you for a second. Scientists estimate it takes roughly 1 million years to form just a few barrels of oil under natural conditions. Humanity, meanwhile, currently burns through around 100 million barrels of oil every single day. Think about what that actually means. Every time you fill a gas tank, every time a plane takes off, you are burning through sunlight, that ancient plankton captured from the sun hundreds of millions of years ago, sunlight that got trapped, buried, and slow-cooked into fuel over a length of time longer than most of us can genuinely picture. And humanity is spending that ancient stored energy at a pace almost incomprehensibly faster than the Earth ever produced it. Ancient civilizations digging up bitumen to seal their boats had absolutely no idea they were handling the compressed remains of prehistoric ocean life. They just knew it was sticky, useful, and occasionally mysteriously on fire. But let's be honest about what chasing this discovery actually cost people. The oil rush wasn't a clean, tidy science story. It was chaos, and it was dangerous. Early oil derricks were wooden, hand-built, and unstable. Wells could blow out without warning, sending oil, gas, and debris rocketing into the sky with enough force to injure or kill anyone standing nearby. In 1901, a well near Spindletop, Texas erupted into a gusher so massive it reportedly shot oil over 100 feet into the air, and it took days of dangerous hands-on work just to bring it under control. Boomtowns sprang up almost overnight around new oil strikes, pulling in desperate workers chasing fortune with almost none of the safety regulation we'd expect today. Fires at refineries and wells were common and often deadly. Workers breathed in fumes for hours at a time with no protective equipment, no understanding yet of the long-term damage that exposure could cause. Every gallon of that early oil, refined into kerosene to light a lamp in someone's living room, came from an industry built on real physical risk, paid for by workers whose names mostly never made it into any history book. So how did humans learn that petroleum was hidden inside the earth? Much like metal, the honest answer is that they didn't figure it out through insight or theory first. Petroleum simply kept surfacing on its own, in tar pits, in burning springs, in sticky seeps, for thousands of years until curiosity and necessity finally pushed people to go looking for more of it on purpose. That same instinct, chase what surfaces, then go looking for where it's coming from, is the exact same curiosity that once led someone to throw a rock into a campfire and accidentally discover copper. It's the same instinct that would later split the atom and build computer chips out of sand. It never really stopped. We just kept finding new things hiding right under our feet. And speaking of things hiding right under our feet, and in our own history, there's one more discovery worth telling. One that didn't come from rock or from ancient buried oceans, but from something far closer to home, something people were already eating. The moment someone figured out how to purify it into something entirely new is a story of its own. That one's coming soon. If this is the kind of question you didn't know you needed answered, you know what to do.